pick an NFL quarterback, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, whatever. At most, they're controlling 50% of what happens. At most, right? Because as we pointed out in the past, Tom Brady has never lined up at safety a day in his life. Not in Little League, not in, like, you know what I mean? Like, at no point, people recognized by the age of 8 that Tom Brady was a one-way player, right? He wasn't one of those guys that you could find old tape of him playing defense. I've looked. It's not there. By age 8, they identified what he was. If you're a great basketball player, you've probably played 3 or 4 different positions, right? In high school, AAU, whatever. So if you're what the ideal kid is 6'8 and a half, 220 something pounds, can shoot, can pass, can rebound, right? The kid you want is a kid that can play all the positions practically, right? And if the person has a high basketball IQ, all you're doing is giving them the occasional little, hey, why don't you do this instead of that? And then you're sending them back out. You're not drawing up a whole, I mean, let me rephrase that. You do draw up plays sometimes. You do see plays getting drawn. I want to make it sound like they don't draw up plays. But once they actually start, right? They go back out there, and one thing's different, that play's done. Now you're moving on to what's going to happen instead because they reacted to the thing you thought was going to happen, right? So unless the other team is incredibly poorly coached, the play you thought you were going to run, you probably aren't running most of the time anyway. I mean, unless they're just so bad.
Yeah, I think the DSQ is huge, right? Yes. The DSQ is huge. But also there's the concept that, to me, I think there's a slight difference. The NFL has, and Bill can help me with the numbers, 25 coaches on staff, right? Position coaches coach players and teach technique.
Yep.
I think NBA coaches are, to Bill's point, they're game plan coaches. They're game plan coaches. Now, occasionally you might bring in Hakeem Olajuwon to try and teach a guy a drop step, right?
Right.
For the most part, there's what?
Hey,
4 or 5.
We work with our point guard a little bit.
Right.
You do that a few weeks in camp.
Exactly. There's a few coaches on the NBA staff. I don't know, 5, maybe 6. I don't know. There's a strength guy. But NFL coaches, not the head coach. The head coach is more game plan, but there's position coaches that coach skill and technique. What a guy needs to do to play a 9 technique versus a 3 tech. There's guys who are teaching there. Yep. The NBA, to Bill's point, throw the ball out there. This is what I want us to do as a team, and I'm going to control timeouts, who comes in and out of the game. So some of it is the structure of the sport. Yep. The DSQ, I didn't have a name for it, but that was my original thought. The DSQ is a huge gap between the two.
That's the biggest difference.
That's the biggest difference. And I think the coaching jobs are slightly different. To your point, though, you just can't. The DSQ is too huge in the NBA. You can't ask those guys. And we're not even talking about, like, teaching them how to be men, how to be professionals. How do you travel? How do you behave when you got a 5-night trip and you're going to LA for 3 days and you're going to go up to San Francisco or Oakland, whatever. And how do you conduct yourself? Just how to be a man, 18-year-old kid who just signed a contract for $90 million.
A club a few months ago where you couldn't even get in. Now they've reserved an entire section for you.
Exactly.
Where models from Singapore have been flown in to court your drink.
Just for you. And you're going to learn a new term called bottle service. You're going to learn all this stuff now. So, yeah, that part's aside, but that might be a part of the DSQ, though. Actually, so if you think about it, that's a part of the DSQ.
Well, see, I'm glad I didn't have to take us to Cribbing After Dark, since Demetrius already took us there. Bottle service. Model from Singapore.
All a part of the DSQ. We're just trying to clearly explain the DSQ. That's all I'm trying to do.
Whatever just happened to benefits.
Right? Exactly. It's still there.
The terminology. But Demetrius, more impressed by Jason Tatum or disappointed by playoff Russell Westbrook?
So I struggle. I'm a Russ guy, so I'm struggling with that. I love the wordplay, but you have to be impressed with a dude putting up 50 in a playoff game, right? This is do or die, like a big game when their next best player is out, and you have to step up. This might be that moment for Jason Tatum. This might be the moment we go back and go, that's when Jason Tatum became Jason Tatum, right? That dude. I usually determine that dude. That might have been him becoming that dude. And I don't know, when Russ shoots 6 for 18, I can't applaud him. As much as I love, you can't shoot 6 for 18, not in that game, not when Bradley Beal's on your team, then you got to do other things. That's what makes Russ, is that at some point, shooters know when it's not their night. He should have started doing different things because it wasn't his night. So I don't. My answer is probably actually disappointment. Nah, it's 50 points in an NBA game is impressive by anybody in that game on that team. That guy, yeah, that 50 is nice. But I think Indiana, and I'm not looking. I haven't seen it. Indiana might get the business tonight for Russ. Indiana might get the business, and I know for sure Philly doesn't want any part of that smoke. So I would say impressive. Yeah, 50 points in a big game, the definition of a big game, that's impressive by anybody. And I think that might have been the moment where Jason Tatum became that dude.
That was a game where I believe, I'm not sure whether it was Shannon or whether it was Coward that specifically said that Jason Tatum had to score 50 points or more in order for the Celtics to win.
What a good call. That's a good call.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah. And when you know that, when that's out there and you go do it, and the other team knows you're trying to do it, it's a big deal. That's a big deal.
What's your thoughts on that, Bill?
Well, and we're talking about ways that basketball is different from football, right? You can take away Jerry Rice. Like, you can take away one guy in football. The difference is in basketball, if one guy is Michael Jordan or LeBron James or apparently Jason Tatum sometimes. We talked about Steph Curry, how there's essentially, unless you have a tranquilizer dart waiting as he gets off the bus, there are times when there's nothing you can do with certain players in the NBA. The way the game is played, particularly nowadays, the way the game is played, when some guys are feeling it and they have that level of game, you're just on for the ride, right? You're just like the little thing has come down, the ride has started moving. Now you're just on the ride. Like, you can't wait till the ride's over. You can't get off the ride in mid-ride. It doesn't work that way. That's how the NFL is different, right? If you decide that we're taking this one guy away, we're going to shut down Marvin Harrison in this game, we're going to take away LaDainian Tomlinson. Like, there's this one, you can decide to take away one guy. Now, you're going to sacrifice something to do it, but if you decide to shut down one guy, you can just shut down one guy. The NBA is different enough that if that one guy is, as the gentleman right beneath me, as we look on the screen, says, that dude, there's times when that dude, you could send 5 guys at that dude.
Doesn't matter.
I've seen Kobe just destroy the 5-on-1 defense at times when he's all Kobe'd up. I mean, there's just guys that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's how one way the NBA is so different. And I'm not blown away, but I thought Jason Tatum would be a very good player. And I remember writing about what I thought he could be. And I said, he could one of those guys could be your best guy off the bench, right? I mean, you're the king or your guy. You're basically the guy who runs your second. Or he could be, I thought he'd be one of the great second options.
Yeah.
Watching him develop into a great first option is something, I'll be honest, I didn't see coming. But my gosh, has this guy shown that he can do things that, I mean, admittedly, 50 points isn't quite what it used to be in a game, but it's still, as my friend Dimitri said, like, it'll never be easy to score 50 points. Like, no matter what.
That's just getting buckets. Like, that's getting buckets.
Is the very definition of getting buckets. Like, the 50-point club is a little more diluted than it used to be, say, 40 years ago, when all the guys that scored 50 points were Hall of Famers. Yeah. It's not quite that anymore. Right. But still, everybody's in
the final score might only be 60 to 50.
Right. When you put up 50 and your team only scores 105, that's
right. When guys like Calvin Murphy were going for 50 and the team scored 94, you were doing something.
Right.
Well, remember Wilt went for 100, and what did the team score? 118 or something?
Something like that. Yeah. I mean, as you said, just pointed out, it's a very different game. But the point I'm making is that even now, though it might be a little more diluted, it's still incredibly impressive. There'll never be a way that you could not be impressed by a 50-point game, especially a have-to-have-it 50-point game, as that's still to be pointed out. That this is a 50-point game you have to have. This isn't you just feeling it that night. This is you having to do it. Yep. There was no other option. You couldn't say, I only feel like 38. That wouldn't have gotten it done. You have to get over 50. Anything less, and we're not getting this game.
Right. It's like they announced it in the morning. You're just eating your cereal, trying to have a nice morning. Coward and Shannon are like, you're going to have to get 50. And he's like, man, can I just eat my cereal? Yes, I do.
True to what you were saying, Demetrius, it seems like the Wizards have a very substantial lead here. What is it, 74-57, I believe? Yeah. And Russ really hasn't been that much of a factor as of yet.
Okay. And that's the thing; he doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to be.
And Demetrius just pointed that out. And Russell should do well to remember that. It's not the first time we've seen him go 6 for 18. It's not the last time he'll go 6 for 18.
Exactly.
But there's times when he has good nights, even when he went 6 for 18, because he's distributing the ball, because he's playing defense, because he's rebounding. That's how he has different kinds of 6 for 18. I've seen him have some very selfish 6 for 18s too, where he's not doing all the Russell things that we look for Russell to do, and he's just feeling mad or whatever it is. And, he's doesn't like the fact his shot's not going down. It's affecting everything else. There's other times when he's just in the flow of the game, the shot's not falling, but he says, I'm going to do everything else, and he still has a great game. So mindset for every player is important. But for a guy like Russ, his game was originally just built around explosiveness, and now he's still probably top 25 to 30 percentile in explosiveness. He's not number one. Like at one point, he might have been the most explosive guy in the league. He's not that anymore, but he's still explosive enough that he can beat guys still, right? Guys 10 years his junior, and that's more, with just the ability to get to a spot. Yeah. But he doesn't have to score to be a great player. That's one of the things I love about him is even when he's not scoring, he'll be a great player. And if he remembers that.
Right. Exactly. I almost think he's better. I think if you look up the stats for when Russ scores 25 or more, they probably have a decent percent. Well, the OKC teams had a good winning percentage. I think if you look up games where Russ had more than 15 assists, I bet they win more of those games. And that's the thing. You have to know very early when you're Russ, tonight I need to dish out 20 assists. Forget about 6 for 18. I might only take 10 shots, but I'm going to facilitate 15 more shots for teammates that end up in buckets. And sometimes, to Bill's point, I think Russ can get caught up in his emotions. He needs to remind everybody that he's Russell Westbrook, and that's not what he needed last time.
Well, Demetrius, since you decided to jump in here, I'm going to give you the question that I was going to give Bill. But I knew what Bill's answer was going to be.
I'll leave Bill time if I need to.
Well, then we're going to talk about Bill's favorite guy, Mr. Harden.
Yeah.
Harden says, hey, look, it's all about winning, not about stuffing my stats.
Should we just laugh? Can Bill and I just laugh for like 2 full minutes? 2 full minutes.
So I'm going to give you the whole list. When they say it's not about money, when they say it's all love, when they say I don't care about stats, I don't read the papers, I don't listen to what people say. What's the other one? Like certain things you can just put on the list of things that I just sort of say, that's so cute you said that. Like there's a whole list of things. We make a list I call it opposite things, right? I'm saying this because I'm feeling the opposite.
Yep.
Right?
I don't read the newspaper. I don't do social media. Oh, please. You got burner accounts. We know how all this works.
When someone says it's not about the money, when someone says, like there's a whole list of things we can make. Like the person saying the thing because they're feeling the opposite, right? So when someone says to you, I don't care about my stats. Guys who don't care about their stats never have to talk about their stats, right? When's the last time someone asked Dellavedova about his stats, right? So when a guy really doesn't care about his stats, they don't even ask him about his stats.
Right.
The guys who have to talk about their stats are guys who care about their stats.
Right. And when guys say it's the best one is not about the money. That's generally the dude that's already gotten paid. He's got stacks in the bank, so he can say that. But you're right.
It's not true.
I know, and that's the thing is that the funny thing to me is they think that the media, guys like us who watch this closely, like it's like they don't know the definition of the word disingenuous. Like we're not smart enough to see through this nonsense that you're talking. Because we are. Because I know Bill just laughs when he sees that. And so to me, this team, all three of them, quite frankly, James Harden saying it's all about winning, not about stats is just funny. I wish I had something good to say, James. I don't mean to bring down I'm supposed to have insight and all this. It's just funny, James. I'm sorry. I got nothing better. I can see the rest of my time to build.
Here's my insight. Driving home driving wherever he was to when he listened to this later himself, he was like elbowed his play like, watch what we'll say next. Watch what we'll say. Got it.
Sometimes you do have to just entertain yourself. Like when we talk Lions stuff, I just have to entertain myself. So it's like, I don't make a Lions comment because I'll get it. I'll think it's funny. Maybe nobody else. But it's James Harden saying it's not about stats is right up there with anybody saying it's not about the money. This is right there.
But how concerned should they be about the health of the Nets?
Well, remember when I talked about old basketball teams? Remember what happened about old basketball teams? And I said, how do you know when a basketball team is old? Well, I mean, sometimes when guys, tell you they're old, right? I mean, they say, everything hurts. I'm in ice all the time, whatever. I mean, Tim Duncan, towards the end, basically let you know, I can't be chasing these young boys up and down this court much longer.
Exactly.
Everything hurts. I feel bad all the time.
Your body knows. Right. The human body isn't meant to do what these guys do day in and day out.
Not as often as they do.
Right. For a short period of time, you can do it. If God has gifted you, you can do it for a while. And it's work. It's work. And I remember just drifting off a little bit when Barry Sanders retired, he was like, look, the work it takes for me to keep my body in condition to be Barry Sanders, it's a lot of work. You guys just see this. You guys don't know how hard. Calvin Johnson, the same things. I got broken fingers. You guys don't know the work it takes to maintain that. So I like the health question. I've said all along, I don't think we'll ever see the Kevin Durant again. I think we're on the same page there. I like the chemistry part of this question too, because I still don't trust your boy. I don't know that I can ever. He's going to go off. Isn't he going to be Kyrie at some point? Just randomly on a Tuesday after game 2 that they won, he's going to leave practice early or just some Kyrie-like thing because
make a crazy comment or
his chakras were off or, whatever. He had a bad cup of milk this month. It's good. And I don't know how Harden and Durant are going to react to that. And it could be other things. It could be that Durant tweaks something and he goes down. How does Kyrie and Harden react to that?
Sure.
Something, whether it's physical or chemical.
It's coming.
It's coming. We're just waiting for that thing to happen. And then how does the team react? And I don't trust the human beings that play basketball for Brooklyn. That's what it is.
Well put.
Yeah, that's it.
Some of them you don't trust their bodies. Some of them you don't trust their minds.
Exactly.
But there's something will happen. I'm assuming you took point a fair amount of time in your life, Mr. King, correct?
Yes. Yes, sir. I even got a badge from it. One of the first ones is White Man School.
And so there were times when you knew, this is not going to be a good day. Right? Remember those times? We're going where? To do what? You knew it was going to be football. You knew hard and right. There was going to be just nothing good's going to come. It's going to be a cluster. You knew it immediately. Yeah, and it's like, hey, why don't we just not go outside the wire today? But no, nobody wants to listen. Right? You got to go because reasons. And you knew that day was going to be messed up. There's going to be a day. It might not even be a game. It might be in practice. Who knows? It could be anything. That's what makes it so exciting / terrible.
Exactly.
It could be anything. It could be nothing. But you know it's coming. The thing that we all know is coming is coming. We don't know how, when, or where, but we know it's coming.
And I can't wait because we're going to talk about it on the SPORTSKRIB. It's going to be nonsense. It's going to be some security guard at the arena said something to Kyrie and he can't play. And James is gonna be like, here you go, fellas. and we're gonna
I got this one. I got it.
I can't wait. So like I said, I think the bottom line with him is I don't trust him physically or chemically. Something's gonna happen.
Just a matter of what.
Yep.
Not even when. It's just a matter of what.
What is almost as good as when? Because Bill said, we know it's coming. We know it's coming.
Demetrius, did Ty Lue actually duck the Lakers and the Trailblazers?
I don't think so, because I mean, if you look at it from a logic stand, this is the time you want them, right? This is the best time to get them. Right. If he is, he don't understand what's happening. He's got this reverse, because this is the moment where you want them. Because logically, they're going to get healthier, ergo better as the playoffs go on. So if your best chances of beating them are probably right now, when we all probably agree that Davis is close, but I know LeBron's not. LeBron's not. Although he still looks good. If you're gonna beat them, I think you wanted them now. So I don't know that he would never say that. They would never say that. Beating them 4 times in 7 games is gonna be tough for anybody anytime. Although, yeah, we'll talk later. I don't think the Clippers ducked them. I think it worked out that way. And ultimately, if you're real, and by real I mean if you're the team, if you're good enough, you got to beat them anyway. You got to beat them eventually. So ducking somebody makes no sense, because eventually they're knocking on the door. You can close the curtains and hide, but they're knocking on the door eventually. So,
right.
But Bill, when you don't, well, I'll put it like this: you name one guy that they started in that lineup in the last game.
Bill can do it. Bill can do it if he wanted
to. But your point is made, though. Right. The fact that you have to think that hard to come up with one of them lets you know that's a good point that you make. Here's what I'm going to say. As was just pointed out, it's not like you can I'm going to transfer schools, right? Like, you can't avoid the bully. Like, you can't say, you know what I mean? Like, you can't go live with your grandma. Like, there's nothing to avoid the bully. It doesn't work that way. At some point, you and the bully are going to be there, and everyone's going to make a ring around you and start chanting, fight, fight, fight. So, I mean, from what I've heard, I don't know if that's how
it sounded really, really personal, Bill.
Maybe. I don't know. But the point is that at some point, you and the bully are there together.
You got to dance.
At some point.
And if you know that, say, the bully just got out of a bad fight just before and isn't fully healthy, wouldn't you want to fight the bully now? The bully's feeling 100% tip-top.
Yep. So, that bad leg. Yeah.
This is right. This is the time. This is as good as it's going to get. It's not getting any easier. This is it. This is your shot. Yep. Take it.
Hey, I definitely agree with you there. Must read a lot of books, Bill.
Yeah, because I've never actually had this happen to me.
Things he's heard. You hear things.
Yeah. Oh man, it kind of reminds me of my sergeant at Ranger School. He wasn't a bully. No,
a charming individual with lots of interest.
Right, they got a lot of energy. It's got a lot of energy.
Interesting story that when I was in jump school, Bill, I had a little short Vietnamese sergeant. I think he was E6, I believe, E7, and you know how you always get to think, if you're man enough, come on out and try me. Well, unfortunately, I thought
you weren't in your best headspace that day and considered this a good idea.
I really did, consider, if you can get through this, then, you get a certain amount of time off and, don't have to do details and stuff like that. So, hey, man, I'm down to try. For about all of 90 seconds that I remember. Right. But
those stories generally end up with what I remember. That always ends up in that story.
Right before everything went all black and swirl. And here's the thing where I knew you were in trouble. When you said he was a little short guy.
You were setting it up, yeah.
Because that never works out. It sounds crazy, but I would really, when you're talking about those guys, I would rather take on a guy who's like 6'5", 250.
Yeah.
That guy has been in fewer fights, right? That guy, it's the guy who's 5'4", 5'5", who fights every day.
He loves the fight.
That guy
He lives the fight. Exactly.
Yeah, he comes up to my chin. What are you talking about, you little? And that's about that's about as far as it got.
It's all you remember. It's all you remember.
But man, it's like they say, shit happens.
Yes, that is what they say because it's true. It is so true.
Let's see, Bill. How concerned should we be about the health of the Lakers?
We should be concerned. We should be concerned. Once again, not to bring up the whole "Hey, how old are you again?" thing, because in basketball years, they have several players in their team that are in their. They're not in their 50s, literally, but in basketball years, they're in their 40s, late 40s to 50s. And so the things that start to happen is the things that remember those things that they would happen to you, and then you'd be fine like a few hours later, and then a few years later you'd be fine the next day, and then a few years after that you'd be fine on Thursday.
Right.
So it's now gotten to the point where now you may not even be completely okay on Thursday.
Right.
So you have to be concerned when your best players are closer to the end of their careers than the beginning of their careers, right? They don't have a young superstar on the team. They have young good players, but they don't have a young superstar. Their best players are all guys who are older guys, particularly, obviously, the two we talk about all the time. Now, one is younger than the other, but even Anthony Davis isn't a kid anymore. He's not young. He's not old quite yet, but he's not young. He's old for his age also, and because of the way because one, he was a guy that dealt with some injuries, obviously already, and he's a bigger player. And for those guys, the end comes sooner for the most part. Kareem is, of course, the great exception, but usually those guys, you get to about 33, 34. Remember how Hakeem went from being one of the most unstoppable forces in basketball, and then like a year and a half later was like, maybe he needs to come off the bench. It's like, wow, what the heck happened? And people were joking around like he married that 18-year-old girl, but whatever. I don't think that was actually the real reason, but
I'm sure that didn't help.
But when you're a bigger guy, the years come fast when you get past 30. Come faster when you get past 30. And LeBron's weird. He's not a big guy in the way that you normally think of a big guy, but he's a big guy. You know what I mean? And to his credit, he's reshaped his body some. He used to be even heavier. He was darn near 280 at one point, which is crazy. And he's slimmed down, but he's still like high 250s, low 260s, which is a huge individual. But he knows that his knees will appreciate it if he keeps his weight a little on the lower side. So, yes, you've got to be concerned. This team never had great depth anyway, James. Remember when we talked way back, he said, what am I worried about? And I said, outside shooting and depth. The outside shooting is kind of held together, but the depth never quite got to where I wanted it. I don't feel great about their depth. Never did. So, yes, concern. Concern level 6 is what I guess if you're asking for a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
Wow, only a 6. Demetrius, what do you think? Because he talks about AD's age, but AD's body probably is in the same shape that mine is at least half of the year.
Yeah, and I think that's a point he touched on, because when you have big guys, tall guys, and they're dealing with lower leg injuries, this is like that's the reality. It's like I'm 6'4". The joints don't like it when you land. Jumping is not that big a deal anymore. I can still jump. Coming down is not that far. Coming down is where the problem is. You have a lot of joints that take a lot of impact when you do it. And over the course, my feeling is I think he nailed it. LeBron is the outlier, right? And even as an outlier, he's still 260 pounds, and he's jumping up and down and running. AD is a big man, 6'10", 6'11", with lower leg problems. He's had lower leg problems for a few years now. Yep. That's the thing. But
he's going to have fewer of them in the future. He's going to have more of them in the future.
He's going to have more, right. And even at a higher level, teams can withstand injuries. Like if this is Caruso or Drummond or even Kyle Kuzma, it's a Kuta Matata. There's no worries on that. This is that dude times 2. It's both of their dudes, right? Those are the 2 dudes. Literally any other 2 dudes could have gotten hurt on this team. We would not be sweating it. we would all be still picking them to go.
Yep.
Those two dudes, both of them. And that's the thing. I don't think that, to me, like an Achilles area, a hamstring, lower leg injury on a guy over 6'8", it's a wrap. It's a wrap. That's just, you can't bounce back from that. And LeBron is just, he is already, people say father time's undefeated. I don't know. LeBron giving father time an L right now. So father time is George Foreman staggering around on the ropes, and Ali is just waiting to drop that last bomb. But eventually he'll walk away. I think he'll still be good enough to play in the league, and he'll walk away. But he's 260 pounds, and that hurts. That hurts your back. That hurts your hips. Joints don't like landing. That's just a simple deal that is I'm not a doctor. I have not taken a single class in medicine. I can tell you, playing pickup basketball on concrete for a good chunk of my young adult life, and I got all these cute little 3-on-3 Gus Macker trophies that mean nothing right now because my hips are like, what were you thinking? That's concrete. You can't play in the parking lot. Even where they're playing, that's just rough. So I think it's with them, it's those two guys. It's a huge concern. To me, it's not even little, it's huge. Even if they just lose LeBron, I don't
You
have
said
them.
just lose LeBron.
Miami gets no, that's not even. I don't even like the way I said that. Actually, the way you
Even
bring
if
it
you
up.
just lose your right arm,
Exactly. That makes sense. That's So it's difficult because they need to be healthy, and if they pull this off, it'll be even more impressive. Because I'm not sure either one of those guys is going to be 100% the rest of this year, and they're just going to gut it out. But concern level, yeah, I'm a solid 8. Yeah, I'm worried for him. Because I like some other teams in the West, so that's another part of it too.
Well, Bill gives him a 6. Dimitri gives him an 8. We'll see. All right. Let's see. Demetrius, Monty Williams was named Coach of the Year for the Phoenix Suns, but now they're playing the Lakers. So, are they more than a one and done?
Yeah, awesome segue. This is why you're the facilitator, the godfather of sports, because I did not do what I normally do, which is ruin a later question a couple of minutes ago. No, I'm calling this one now. To the Clipper point of when do you want the Lakers? Now. And to the point that I like the Suns. This might be real, guys. I'm not gonna jump way out on this limb, but I feel like they have a legitimate dude or a borderline dude at least in Booker. And Chris Paul is one of the best leaders this game's ever seen. I mean, you guys know I love Isaiah Thomas, right? We share a birthday, all that nonsense. Chris Paul is the closest thing to Isaiah Thomas since Isaiah Thomas. Leadership, he can do a lot of things on the floor. And as his career went on, he understood the value he gives the team at 35 versus the value he did at 25. 25-year-old Isaiah was getting buckets. Then they added Joe Dumars, and they got Dantley /McGuire and James Edwards. And 32-year-old Isaiah was like, I'm trying to win championships. Let me change my game. Chris Paul figured that out. And they have, like I said, I think they're talented. I think Monty is an excellent coach. I think it's going to be a better series than a lot of people think. I like Booker, obviously. I love Chris Paul. I think they've got some Bill Carroll glue guys and Crowder and Cameron Payne. And if Saric gets back to where we think he is, and Ayton is 14 and 10, Bridges is giving them 13 a night. They got a nice little team over here. So I want to jump out there and say something crazy. I don't think they're one and done. I think that's going to be a really good series, and I wouldn't be surprised if Phoenix won.
Okay, Bill.
Well, as just pointed out once again, but so perceptively and accurately, other than the big two, the better roster is clearly Phoenix.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not even very close. Actually, they have lots of depth. They have so many guys that know their role and do their role to such a high level. They scare me. I'm a solid 8. For fear factor, solid 8. They're a very scary team. And quick little note. Feeling old moment. I remember when Monty Williams was at Calvert Hall High School. I saw him play at a tournament. I remember he was listed at 6'6", 207. I still remember that for some reason. And I remember like all the schools that were coming after him and all that stuff. I mean, God, do I feel old. But yes, I remember Monty very, very well. coming out and watching him develop and watching him become, and I remember thinking, oh, he's like a poor man's Dwayne Farrell. Not even poor, like a lower middle class man's Dwayne Farrell when I watched him play. Remember Dwayne Farrell from Georgia Tech?
Yep.
You remind me a lot of him when I watched him. Oh my gosh, Williams it feels so weird for him to be, years.
Close to the year.
Man, I mean, I watched this guy when he was 17. But yes, this is a team that's built. They are built to be possible legend slayers, and it helps that the legends are already not 100%, but they have all the things you need. They have a kid who can get hot and drop 70 on you, right? When you have at least one guy who's capable of going off for 70, you always have a chance to win any game. As was pointed out, they have maybe the best pure point guard we've seen in the 2000s. Right? They have guys who can play defense. They have guys who can rebound. They have a really good secondary and tertiary ability to score beyond that guy who can drop 70 on you. They have guys who, are more than willing to be the guy that just goes out there and bothers you all night when you are hot. They have the guy who just go out and give you some, the cooler. They have guys who can legitimately, they might be able to stop you when you're hot, but they can certainly make it a little more difficult when you're hot. They have all the pieces. They have all the things you need. They are terrifyingly close to being. They're literally one player away from being just a better team flat out.
I agree.
They're literally one player away from being just a better team flat out. This is a terrifyingly good basketball team. They scare me.
Whoa. Okay. So we got a little
surprise. James surprised. You thought we was not going to go for them, huh?
Well, Bill is typically a Lakers guy, and
I'm a Lakers guy, but I have eyes.
He's a reasonable guy too.
Well, he gave him a 6, you gave him an 8, so I'm just trying to divide the difference. That's all.
Sure, that works.
So, what do you think about LaMelo's last performance, Bill? Do you think that his last performance possibly cost him the Rookie of the Year? Or are you more leaning toward Anthony Edwards?
I was leaning toward Anthony Edwards anyway, but if that should not be the reason that he doesn't win. If you're going to vote for him, is that what we're doing? Right. Oh, well, you had a terrible night. Well,
one night, you're done.
Hold on, give me my vote back. You're done. No, everybody. I can find name a player. I can discover a night where they were terrible, right? There were nights when Wilt Chamberlain went 5 for 27. Everybody had a night where it's oh, you're awful, right? I don't that can't be what we're doing. But I was an Anthony Edwards guy anyway. I was an Anthony Edwards guy preseason. That was my prediction anyway. I think you guys. Was I on the show when I predicted that? I hope I was. I hope I wasn't just talking to some idiot friend of mine. I hope it was here on the show. But that was my guy preseason anyway. I was an Anthony Edwards guy. I thought he was going to win anyway. I like the fact he's a football guy too. I've always been partial to guys that grew up playing football.
Nice. So I'm actually going to go off script. I'm jumping right in because I think we need to put some respect on the name of Tyrese Halliburton. And if he didn't play,
that was my other guy. Yeah.
If he didn't play in Sacramento, we would be talking about him.
Yes. So I tweeted out that he was going to be the steal of the round.
Yep.
I tweeted that out when he was drafted.
That kid is out there balling. It's probably, like I said, I think it's a huge part of he plays in Sacramento. And he's probably 13-5, but I think he's shooting 40% from 3 and close to 50% from the field. He's just playing really good rookie basketball.
A baby Sean Elliott kind of.
Exactly. A guy who's fluid can do. I only saw him 4 or 5 times this year. All those games I was impressed. Oh man. And the Pistons.
High basketball IQ.
Right. The Pistons took Killian Hayes, and that was the guy I wanted them to get to. So first let's talk about all 3 of them. Well, we don't have to. I think Edwards is what? 20-4 or 19-4, something like that. 19
and change and 4, yeah.
Yeah, but I think he's only shooting 33% from 3.
He's a volume shooter.
He's a volume shooter. Okay, there you go. Which okay, then you need to be shooting close to 50% from the field if you're going to be a volume shooter, right? Yeah. And neither one of these guys is shooting as well from the field as Halliburton. Neither one of them is even close to him from 3 range. No. So LaMelo will probably get it. He's 15, 6, and 6 or something like that. He's got a nice balance sheet.
He's got a nice balance, yeah.
This is a league that likes to reward stars, though. And of the 3, largely due because Halliburton's in Sacramento. I contend that's a big part of this. LaMelo is the star of the group. Edwards is probably going to be the best player. To Bill's point, Edwards is built for this game. Anthony Edwards is built to play this game well for a long time. LaMelo does stuff that the other two dudes can't do. Just like from a flash and creativity standpoint, like entertaining. LaMelo's the most entertaining. Halliburton's playing the best.
He's going to become what people thought Ricky Rubio was going to be.
Exactly. Truthfully, Edwards should get it, but Halliburton should get mentioned. No. If Halliburton was playing in New York, it would be easy, right? Or LA, this would be easy.
Even Chicago.
Oh, Chicago, exactly. But I think Melo will probably get it. If it were me, my vote would go to Halliburton. Because I just
because you like efficiency.
Exactly, efficiency. I'm about that efficiency. That 40% from three and 47% from the field trumps everything else the other guys are doing to me. But I think LaMelo will get the award, and now it doesn't bother me that much. None of them are Pistons, so it's all
right. Demetrius, the Grizzlies or Golden State?
So this one, I think. This was actually tough for me, which I was surprised. When I saw it, I was thinking, just how do I feel? And I watched the game last night. So the game's in Golden State. So I think I still believe home court matters in the National Basketball Association. But the real issue is balance, right? Memphis got 2/3 of their points. Literally 67 of their 100 points came from three dudes.
Yep.
We talked about Phoenix earlier and the balance and the glue guys and spreading it. That is not what Memphis is, right? So if you're Golden State and you find a way to mitigate Brooks or Valanciunas, you got a real shot because you have that dude. That's a given. You have that dude who shot the ball well. I mean, if he does what he does and you can slow down one of those guys, and I don't even assume you're going to slow down Ja. I'm a big Ja guy, but Ja can't beat you by himself. Ja shouldn't be able to beat you by himself. So now you don't have to worry about 4 other dudes. You really only have to worry about 2 other dudes. And if you shut down one of them, 67 of their 100 points came from 3 dudes. I don't feel like that's sustainable for winning in the NBA. I just don't. And I think that game is on the road and there's a guy on the other team that will choke you out if you give him a chance. And I just don't know if 3 guys, to me, it's like 3 guys against Golden State. And as much as I like Brooks and Valanciunas is kind of underrated. That should be a topic on me. Let Bill go off on Valanciunas for me because I think this dude's a really good player.
Yes,
dude,
he is a really good player.
They're not going to be the 3 guys aren't going to be Golden State. Now, if they go up there and they get contributions from 2 other dudes, they got a shot. But the short answer is I like Golden State because the lack of balance in Memphis scares me a little bit.
At the end of 3, it's 114-83. Wizards, and Russ is on his triple-double watch.
Exactly.
So we'll see how that gets.
I told you, Indiana getting that business because of that. 6 of 18 means somebody's got to pay. He woke up this morning and ate a bowl of nails and said, let's do this. Yep.
Bill, let's get back to Golden State or the Grizzlies.
I like the way the Grizzlies team is constructed. Now, as was pointed out, they still need to add another scorer at some point if they want to become a team that's going to make an actual run. Once you get beyond Valanciunas and Ja and as was pointed out, Dylan Brooks. Yeah. I mean, no offense to the John Conchars and Sean McDermott's.
There's another deal. When somebody says no offense, they're about to offend you.
Once again, these are opposite phrases.
Exactly.
The opposite is coming.
Yeah, some of my best friends are black. That's right.
Yeah, there you go. Right. These are opposite phrases.
Yeah.
Like if you took Desmond Bain, Grayson Allen, Kyle Anderson, and and Brandon Clark, right? All together, they don't together make Tyrese Halliburton, right? Mm-hmm. So they need to take some of these guys and some draft picks and whatever and find one other guy who's, doesn't have to be Batman, but doesn't have to be Green Hornet, but he has to be Kato, right? He has to be Robin. Exactly. One more guy because Ja is going to be a superstar. And they need a guy to be the guy who's the guy next to that guy, right? The man next to the man. And they don't have that yet. Valanciunas is a really good player, as we pointed out, but he's not quite that. He's more like Green Arrow than he is like. I mean, that's not really. Well, I guess I can't say no offense again, but
I think Bill's trying not to insult the guy. That's great.
Trying, but he's a good player. Like he's a good player, but he's not the next guy. He shouldn't be your second best player. Is what I'm pointing out.
Right.
He's a good player, but he shouldn't be your second best player. And
Bill, are you saying that Kato was better than the Green Arrow? I mean, Bruce Lee better. I mean.
Yes. Yes. If you're telling me if Kato's fighting the Green Arrow, I'll put my money on Kato every day. What are you kidding me? This is some kind of joke. Don't listen to all of the plea, but I'm taking Bruce Lee in that fight all day, every day.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just how far you wanted to go with that.
Now you know. So, sort of like what we said about things being not sustainable, but the other thing I'm worried about with being not sustainable for going the other way is having to be carried sometimes by Steph. And Steph has done a really good job of carrying them at times, despite everybody I would think being game planned up. I mean, it's not like Steph Curry sneaks up on anyone at this point, I would think.
By the way, Steph Curry.
He put up 37 on 5 Lakers, and it might have been a couple on the bench that was guarding him too.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Right.
Right.
So that's the other thing that concerns me is how far can he carry this team? Not completely by himself, but he's definitely carrying the heaviest load, offensively at least, carrying the heaviest load by far. So both teams have a sustainability problem, right?
Exactly.
Just pointed out. I'm going to lean slightly Grizzlies, though I really love the way that team plays. I love watching. That's still one of my favorite teams to watch play basketball is Golden State because of the way. It's like when people talk about when Diego Maradona, right, was playing and watching that team, just it was how beautiful it was, how the ball moved and how they seemed to be able to see each other even when they couldn't see each other and all that stuff. It's like that. They have that great sort of telekinetic kind of basketball. I just worry about the sustainability.
Yep. That's fair.
In the interest of time, as always, I'm going to add a few questions to the program. No,
just to make sure we go over 2 hours.
Bill, after watching the Spurs game last night, is it time for the Spurs to go all in on youth?
Oh, weren't they doing that already? Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. I'm just asking. Like, is that not what's happening? Was there another option to them? Because I must have missed the other thing they were doing. I thought this is already what was. Whoops. Well, then my apologies. I guess I was misinformed. So if that's not what was happening, then yes, I thought. Oh.
What do you think, Demetrius?
Yeah, I mean, I would. I wish I had gone first because I probably would have done something very similar to what Bill just did. Wait, they're not already? I mean, I think that that happens, and it was bound to happen to them. They did a great job and sustained it for a long time, but that's an old basketball team. I'm sorry, that's an old basketball team, and it just is. And I think that it's blasphemous to say. You know, the biggest change they might need right now, should I say it, Bill? I don't. It might be at head coach. It might be time to literally go all in on youth and get that old man get off my lawn from the first chair on your bench. Although I'm a fan, as a guy, I love that dude as a guy. Don't get me wrong, but when you're gonna do this, I mean, basically, if there was ever a time you were going to be able to move Popovich out of the organization, this is it. And I think, nobody's going to give them grief for, starting a full-blown rebuild. And they're probably a smart enough organization. Historically, they've been a smart enough organization that they'll do it right. And in 4 years, they'll be right back to being the Spurs because they get it.
You know that as of right now, we have lost everyone in Texas that is east of Houston. The entire state of Texas, well, half the state of Texas is just now tuned off the SPORTSKRIB. Thank you very much, Demetrius. Anyway, Demetrius, the finalists for the MVP have been announced, and there's a couple names on there that we might that have been forgotten about. But right now, the three finalists are Jokic, Curry, and Embiid.
Yeah,
which is nuts.
I like the group. So if we're just talking about, is that three? Yeah. I'm gonna stay consistent because I'm all about consistency and efficiency. I think that when you and just when we say something about Texas, look who pops up. we go in on Texas, all of a sudden Hayes is in the house. Yes. What's up, Don? Glad to see you.
Hey, what's up,
So
guys?
my feeling is it's been pretty consistent. I think that when you look at this award, you have to always start with the disclaimer of what are we talking about? Are we saying the best player or are we saying most valuable? I got to be honest, guys. I've been set for weeks. We probably talked about this 4 or 5 weeks ago. And I said, I just don't know how to even measure the value. And we get caught up because he looks like he's been eating donuts and drinking beer all day. We get caught up with Jokic's frame, but he does everything really, really well. It's hard to like say that even more. Like he passes well. He runs the floor for his size. He sets screens. Jokic is really, really good. And that team, he is the center. He is the center. Everything revolves around Jokic. As much as I love Jamal Murray, everything on that team revolves around Jokic. He's the most valuable player in this league right now. Embiid, most improved, probably. In the running for player of the year, if that was an award, absolutely. Absolutely. The most valuable is Jokic. And I mean, I don't even waver. I mean, I don't waver. And I think if you watch enough of their games and it all goes back to my first statement. What do we mean by MVP? Right? If we truly mean most valuable, I don't think this is as difficult a conversation. I think people get confused and mix up best player with the most valuable.
Right.
I'm glad Don's sitting back down here because Don, I wanted to give you my sympathy. Demetrius is just fired pop. So it's
That is not true. We should get his viewpoint on that, though. We're talking about this. Is it time for the Spurs?
I'm gonna ask him that.
Okay, good.
We had a question just before you came on, Don. Is it time for the Spurs to devote the team to youth? Demetrius said yes immediately after they fired Pop. But Don, your thoughts on the direction for the Spurs? Is it for youth? Is it to maintain the status? I mean, what's up? What are you looking for the Spurs next year?
Well, the Spurs, they haven't been the same since they lost, Duncan, Parker, and Ginobili. That's it. They had LaMarcus Aldridge, DeRozan, but you really can't look at one Spurs player and say we can build our team on this guy. So they're going to have to make some moves in the offseason. There is a rumor that Popovich is going to throw in the towel. He just doesn't have that energy he had anymore. He's a Hall of Famer. I mean, he's a great coach, but sometimes you just get burned out. Mac Brown got burned out at Texas, and he took a few years off and reinvented himself in North Carolina. I mean, sometimes coaches do that. Urban Meyer took some time off. So I'm referring to football now, but coaching is the same just anywhere. I mean, football, basketball, baseball, hockey, soccer, doesn't matter. The rumor is that Becky Hammond will be named the Spurs coach probably sometime in June. That's a rumor. That's a sports talk radio in San Antonio. I think there's this movement to have the first woman head coach and all that. We'll see. But yeah, I think it's time for the Spurs to go a different direction. I could see Popovich getting the job in the front office. He's a great evaluator of talent. He and R.C. Buford can work together and find the next Ginobili, find the next Parker. Go on his little wine tasting trips to Europe and go find some basketball players. But y'all know that's how he does that, right?
Yeah. I think Don just co-signed on me. I feel better. I'm sorry. I feel like Don just co-signed everything I said. He's absolutely right. Kick him upstairs, beat Progressive, the most progressive organization in sports probably, and give Becky Hammond the job and go drink wine and find the next part. I think Don nailed it.
Well,
hold on, Bill, because I want to ask Don another question that we didn't get a chance to ask him. Don, who do you think has the easiest path of developing talent, and as far as coaching, an NBA coach or NFL coach?
Ooh. I'm going to say you're saying the easiest path.
No, who has the most difficult path?
Oh, difficult. I would say football coach. Football, you play a season, in high school, it's usually at least 10 games, and then you have playoffs. If you make the playoffs in college, you have a little bit more. In the pros, you're playing, 16 games, 17 games. Basketball is year-round. These kids are bouncing the ball in the gym. They're playing AAU. They're playing these club sports. You don't really have that in football because your body can't take it. And I think that's why you see so many players who are ready for the NBA. Not many players, but the elite are ready like they're junior, senior in high school. Going back, I remember Moses Malone. He didn't go to college. LeBron didn't go to college. Kobe didn't go to college. And now they had the one and done deal. So I think the difficult path is the NFL coach.
Okay. Bill, you want to? I guess I'll get back on track now, and we'll talk about what was that first question I gave you?
I was going to say a quick fun fact. To my knowledge, the only in history of the NBA, the only staff that's ever had two people who are fluent in Russian are the Spurs, because of course former military intelligence office Major Popovich is fluent in Russian, and so is Becky Hammond, who actually played on the Russian Olympic team. I think maybe 2 Russian Olympic teams, and became a naturalized Russian citizen.
Wow. Now I'm going to go back to Hammond. Y'all talk about being the first female coach. San Antonio's done as military city USA, and the thing about Becky Hammond is a lot of our Fort Sam, Brooks Air Force Base, Randolph Air Force Base, Lackland, Kelly Air Force Base.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think most of us, Bill, are used to Lackland and Fort Sam. Yeah.
But,
when you go into Lackland, that's another time when you know that things aren't good. But anyway, go ahead.
There's a large section of the Spurs fandom that doesn't want Becky Hammond because she played for the Russians.
Oh, that's an interesting little deal. Wow.
It's Texas. It's still Texas, regardless.
Yeah, it's Cold War. We're still in the Cold War, but
still in the Cold War in Texas.
The guys are like, well, once you play for the United States, you're, I figure if I were an Olympic athlete, I'm going to represent USA. I mean, I have some German in me. I have some Scottish in me, Scots German. I'm not going to go for United Kingdom or Germany. I'm going to go USA. But that's just me. That's
Texas. That's Don Hayes representing Texas right there. That's what that is.
Very, very. Well, Don, does it help that she was born on an Air Force base? She was born on Ellsworth. Does that help at all down in San Antonio?
Probably does. It's funny you would know that fact.
Oh, I don't
know. It was a fountain of obscure facts, man.
We just haven't got him on. We're waiting for Sports Jeopardy to come on, Don.
If you ever get in a Trivial Pursuit on this. I'm taking Bill first round pick. I want to sign him to a multi-million-dollar deal, multi-year, multi-dollar.
Don, Jokic, Curry, and Embiid are finalists for the MVP. Who's your pick?
Oh man,
It's tough.
Curry he's been lighting it up lately. But I think Jokic has been the most consistent throughout the year.
Absolutely.
I'd have to go with Jokic on that one. But I'm talking about just being consistency and for what he does for his team. Curry's been doing it for years, I know, but I just think Jokic has maybe 2 hairs better this year.
Bill, you making it unanimous?
I am. And I love Steph Curry. I've loved Steph Curry since I was watching him chase balls around when he was a kid. I watched his father at Virginia Tech, a great 2-sport athlete in high school, great quarterback in high school, and as well as being a great basketball player. But yeah, I mean, they're all great, and Luka Doncic deserves at least like a tip of the cap or whatever. But yeah, I mean, how do you not give it to Doncic? He's the term most valuable is tricky, right? Because value means different things to different people. Some people value is they look straight 2 points per game. I mean, that's value to some people. They'll never get beyond that. Oh, wow, so-and-so's averaging blah, blah, blah points per game. Well, that's got to be the most valuable player because that's how they define value. But if you define value based on the guy that if you took him off the team would have the greatest trouble adjusting to his loss, right? Would either be unable to or would be close to impossible to replace. Yeah. You can find people as great as Devin Booker is. We talked about it. You can find guys that kind of do what he does. Maybe not as well as he does, but kind of do what he does. With Steph, even you can kind of find people that kind of sort of do what he does, not as well, but can do it. LeBron, maybe not. But so LeBron and Jokic are sort of like sui generis, right? They're one of one. We don't have another player who plays quite like either of them. And so those 2 guys are replaceable. And the fact that LeBron's not a finalist, just, it's fatigue. People are just tired of LeBron's name, I guess, on the list. But LeBron should be in the final 3 every year. Every year of his
He could win it. He should win it every year.
He probably should win it.
Can't do that.
Should.
Yeah.
Right. I guess that's what they decide. With people like Jordan or people like LeBron, they say, well, we can't give it to him every year. So instead, we'll move it around a little bit. Yeah. But if it's Jokic's turn, if that's what we're doing. If we're not giving it to LeBron, then it's Jokic's turn.
Okay, so we're going to take turns here. That's a new concept. All right. Well, okay. All right. I knew.
I know what they do, though, James.
Demetrius, you're a Jazz man. There's talks of Donovan Mitchell coming back, possibly playing Saturday or Sunday. What's your thoughts? Too soon? Playoff run? Maybe we should wait till the second round. What do you think?
Now, I don't think this league affords you the luxury of waiting to the second round because you will wake up one day and there will be no second round. He's right. I think he's been able to play actually for probably a week, and they were just holding him out. I've heard different things. He's very important. He's obviously very important to that team, right. And there will be a degree of getting back in the groove, for lack of a better term. So you don't have the luxury of waiting to the second round. You'll be in trouble. So yes, I think it's the right time to come back and become who you were, which was, potentially the best team in the league over the course of the whole year. If you, like Don Hayes, values consistency throughout the year, you got to stop sleeping on Utah because they've been really good all year. They haven't had any long stretches where they didn't play well. They have depth, they have balance, they have glue guys, they have a superstar. Utah, but they play in Utah, so that's what that is. But they're quietly. I mean, if you sit down and really, really break down advanced metrics, or just look at wins or losses, if you want to do it the easy way or the hard way, it doesn't matter. Utah's going to be in your conversation for who's the best team, and that's what happens in the NBA playoffs. Is you got to beat me 4 times in 7 games.
Yep.
You can't get lucky. You can get lucky and beat me once. That's great. You got to beat me 4 times in 7 games in probably 10 days, 11 days, maybe. Right? The better team generally wins. And I think Utah is one of the best 2 or 3 teams in the league. So I like them. And I think Spider's been ready to come back. And it made business sense to hold them out, I guess. And now is the time where the first round he can get back. He might not be right for a couple games, but if you wait too long, then it's too late. So, yeah, I think it's a good time. I think it's smart, and I think Utah's going to be one of the teams we're talking about in a couple weeks, in a few weeks, a couple months maybe.
Don, Paul George says that it's making a big difference now that he's in the bubble. What's the difference between his mindset in the bubble this year and his mindset in the bubble last year? Don?
Well, I think not just his mindset, but everyone's mindset. You know, the bubble was new. It was unique. It was something that had never been tried before. And remember, we were talking about not even playing games. I mean, that's how close we came. I think this year everyone's a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more. We've been here before. The pandemic is starting to wind down. I know we're opening up Texas pretty much. We had full capacity at a Rangers game, and everyone said, well, you're going to have this massive outbreak. It didn't happen.
You just had 73,000 at the Canelo fight. What was it, a week and a half ago?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't even know why. Well, yeah, I know why they're playing in the bubble, but hopefully next year it'll be different. But your mindset is a whole different place. Even in school, you know, everyone in my office is vaccinated, but we're still wearing masks because we have to send a message to the community that we're being safe. I get it. So I think the way you approach it with Paul George or anybody that's in the playoffs, I mean, you just have to deal with it and live it for what it is. And, you know, just know that next year will probably be much different.
Bill, Paul George was just awful last year in the bubble. Come on, I mean, really, are you really buying this, you know, changing mindset all of a sudden? You know,
I'm buying these to be better. I mean, if you're asked, I mean, we're not going to see.
Is he gonna be better? Or is he gonna be Paul George better?
I think that's an interesting question. I think he's going to be a very good basketball player in the postseason. He may not take a bunch of games over. He may take a game over, right? But he doesn't have to be. I mean, we've just talked about the way teams are roster constructed, the way teams are built, and my two favorite rosters, right? We talked about the Jazz a second ago, and then we talked about the Suns earlier. And each of those teams is like literally one player away, maybe not even one player away for the Jazz if they're 100% healthy. They might actually be there or close to it. Yeah. Or actually, the one player they need isn't even like a superstar, actually, when I think about it. They need one more like specialist is what they need.
Yep.
And then the Suns are one superstar away. And he could be like a sort of a second-string superstar, actually, away maybe from being a team that can win it all. Paul George doesn't have to be a superstar. He just has to be good. And I think he's going to be good. And he might even be a superstar maybe once. He only needs, that maybe one night somebody else is flat and he just goes off and gives you 36. He's more than capable of doing that.
Yep.
Demetrius?
At the risk of riding Bill's coattails, I think this is the best thing is what he just said is the biggest thing I'll say is he doesn't have to be, it's odd to say this, consistent. There are nights when they will need Paul George, and he needs to be Paul George on those nights.
Right.
That's not every night. They don't need that every night. But when they need it, he's like a plunger. Like when you need it, you need it. Right? And there ain't nothing else that can solve this problem. You need your plunger. So he needs to be like that. Like he can't not be there when they need him because then it just stands out. It's like, this is the matchup, this is the game, this is the whatever, where, you know, whether it's Kawhi or something else that's happening, Paul George needed to be the guy that stepped up right now. That's all he has to do. And truthfully, that's going to be 4 games through 5 games, maybe through the whole playoffs. And 1 or 2 where he needs to be like playoff P, whatever that is. He needs to be, but he doesn't have to be the guy every single night. There are nights when he should facilitate. There are nights when he just needs to be support. Get that support pillar. But there will be 2, 3, 4 nights in the playoffs where he's got to be the guy. But those are the only 4 nights he needs to be the guy. He doesn't have to be the guy every single night. And I think that's the key. If he shows up those nights, it will become his narrative. When they needed him, he was Paul George. And I think that's the thing with him. So if he does that, they'll be fine. And they're good, by the way. They're a good team. They you know, if they play to their capabilities, they're going to be there. They're going to be a team we're talking about. I don't think they can be Utah. I don't know if they can be the healthy Laker team. So, but the Lakers aren't healthy. So we'll see.
So I'm sure that Paul George will run out and make sure that he endorses plungers.
He should. PG-13 plungers.
God, baby.
PG-13 plungers. It rolls off the tongue. I don't know what the problem is.
Once again, we go to Cribbing After Dark.
Cribbing After Dark. I know. I slip up a couple times, you know.
Paul George is full of okay, all right, yeah. All we have to do is make sure we get him past that first little crook in the pipe. Okay,
yep, that's it.
Right.
First bend. That's it.
Oh my.
Crib After Dark.
Don, let's start talking some football. We got you in here. We might as well get somebody, some civility with the conversation here. So I'm going to start out with something real easy. Don, are off-season workouts and OTAs still necessary, given the way that the rule changes in the NFL?
Well, absolutely. I think so, just because, being a coach myself back in the day, you have to maintain your edge, and that's what the off season is for. So, you would think that these guys who are professionals, that they would take care of their bodies and do it on their own, and some do, but you have to have accountability, and you do that by having your mandatory off-season workouts. I remember there was a running back in San Francisco back in the day named Roger Craig.
Yes, sir.
And that guy would put on a weight vest, put on weights on his legs, and go run up a 2,000 feet high hill. And that guy had the work ethic. Then you got guys who stay home and just inject themselves with steroids, like that guy was named Tony Mandarich, and he faltered. So, you have to have your thumb on it. And I don't think as long as we're playing football, you're always going to have the off season to work out.
I don't know if Big Ben's necessarily a fan of that.
No, he's not. But
we know Phillip Rivers wasn't. I wonder if it's surprising that they both have. I think one has 7 kids and the other has 9. But
exactly.
But we don't have any. But we don't have any postseason workouts. We make good use of our time.
Sports Crib After Dark, James. Sports Crib After Dark, James.
What's the name? Camardi has them all beat though.
Oh, exactly.
So evidently, but. Demetrius, your thoughts on the rules? Like I said, the rules have changed. And the players have a little more, especially now, with the COVID, so they got kind of that on their favor. But do you need OTAs and postseason workouts in order to make you a better football player?
Yeah, you look over my shoulder. That team needs them. I think it depends on who you are. I'm telling you, these guys over here, yeah, they do. It depends on who you are and where you are. But I'm going to use the Lions are a great example here, not just a gratuitous reason for me to mention my team. We got a new head coach. We got a new offensive scheme, a new defensive scheme. Our entire secondary. This is our secondary. Corners are third year, second year. The nickel is a rookie. Our safeties are third year and second year. We just drafted 2 defensive linemen that will be in the rotation. Our right tackle is a rookie. Our center, although he's an all-pro, third year. Left tackle is second year. Receivers, we drafted one and we got another guy's a second year. Yeah, the Lions have now Kansas City, Tampa Bay, your Steelers, maybe not. But we have a new coach, a new scheme, new quarterback, by the way. Forgot to mention that piece. We need them badly. And so the answer really is just, who are you as a team? That determines what you need. If this is valuable, critical time for players to study, for players to get to know each other, hell, to get to know the campus. Where's the bathroom? Right? All that stuff is super important. Like how you structure practice, how you structure playbooks, and again, the competitive environment. There's kneecaps that are going to be bitten in Allen Park, Michigan. We got to figure out all that stuff. So yeah, for the Lions, a great example of a team that absolutely. And I think teams like the Bengals would agree, and some others, if you have key positions, but maybe not Tampa Bay or Green Bay or, Kansas City, Cleveland, maybe not. I don't know. Your Steelers probably don't. You guys have a machine over there. I'm sure you guys are fine. But the Lions absolutely need this.
From your mouth to God's ear, hopefully. Bill, your thoughts?
So the term mandatory was brought up earlier by Don Hayes. Of course, we're not talking about things that are mandatory. We're talking about things that are, quote, unquote, voluntary, right?
Yeah, voluntary.
The ever popular voluntary. And of course, players have been voluntold to show up to these voluntary workouts for years. And this is the first time there's been some pushback. Now, the blowback and the downside is that these guys still need to work out. They're working out somewhere. Some of them going back to their college campuses. Some of them are at home. And unfortunately, the way that the contracts are written, if you get hurt, now you're not covered, right? Now you may be out of luck. You may be
after dark, Bill.
Yeah, I was trying to think of how to say what I was trying to say, but yeah, you may wish that you had not done that if you hurt yourself working out away from the facility. Yeah. So there has to be balance. We've already seen, I think, 2 players who are in the process of trying to see if they end up not losing money that they would have gotten paid due to being injured while they were working out away from the facility. Here's the thing. Football is a difficult sport. I think we all could agree, right? It is the most difficult sport to play, major, organized group sport, like team sport, in terms of, one, the coaching end of it, like all the stuff you have to somehow try to teach players or get players to remember or understand. That part's hard. There's a lot of stuff that you're trying to shove into the heads of the players as quickly as possible. The game is physically difficult to play. It practices hurt. Games hurt more. So you have to be judicious in the amount of work you do, because you want guys to get hurt when it counts, right? I mean, as bad as that sounds, you always hate to have a player injured, but it always seems to be worse when a guy gets hurt in camp or gets hurt working out or gets hurt, in a practice, things like that. Here's what I think. If there is a solution, and I'm not sure there is one, but if there is a solution, I would go with a hybrid approach where guys, whether they are, talking to position coaches via Zoom and working out with a certain amount of guidance from your strength and conditioning people, and then they would tweak the language of the contract so that as long as you're following the plan, whatever that plan is, that you would still be covered. But right now, that's not what it says in people's contracts. So this is a sticky wicket. But yeah, I mean, if something's not mandatory, you can't pretend it's mandatory and expect people to show up when they actually contractually do not have to.
And those two entities are not really good at sitting down and collectively bargaining real common sense stuff. Yeah. Simplest thing. Bill just broke this down in 3 minutes. that group would take months to get together between the players union and the owners. Something that just makes sense for everybody. It's actually not that hard. It'll be tough getting it in that CBA.
Don, remember when the coaches told you had to get in game shape? Yeah, remember that? You need to contact. You got to get in game shape. Yeah, yeah. But hey, a lot of names for it back in the old days. Bill, boy, I don't know whether I should give you this one first or not, because then Demetrius might not have anything else to say.
Exactly. He's going to hijack me on this.
I'm trying to leave some meat on the bone this time. So
no. Here's what I'm going to do. Since we have a question here, since part of this question involves his team, I'm going to let Demetrius have this first, and then we'll come to you.
All right.
Okay. So, Demetrius, we have Patrick Mahomes. He's ranked number 1. And we also have Dak Prescott, who's ranked number 7. And we also have a guy that, according to Professional Football Focus, Mr. Goff is rated as a bottom-tier quarterback. Demetrius, the floor is yours.
Okay. All right. So let me do a little woosah first. Okay. Get the net crack. Okay. So this is nonsense. I'm sorry. I'm glad this isn't after dark because I would go off, and I don't really like that. Here's the deal. I know. I'm certain it is very hard to lead a team to the Super Bowl in the National Football League. I don't care how great the coach is and the defense. That job, that's a hard job to lead your team. And this was 2 years ago. I might be mistaken. Maybe my memory is failing me. I'm getting older. This kid was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, right? He didn't just fall off the earth and forget how to play football. I'm sorry. Now, Sean McVay badmouthed him and gave him this label because of whatever reason. I don't know if he was doing something in meetings or just whatever. I'm telling you, he has a great opportunity in Detroit to recraft his name. That's what it is. This is nonsense. You're not telling me there's 25 quarterbacks better than Jared Goff or whatever. I'm sorry. I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. Right. That is not factually accurate. So I will leave the Dak stuff for Don. I don't know how you can say that because that's a gruesome injury, and I don't believe you recover in months. I think that thing takes years, but I'll let that happen, and I don't disagree with the Patrick Mahomes one. So I can leave the rest of the time. I will just tell you, Jared Goff is a top 15 quarterback in this league. And I know I am jaded, and I eat blue and silver cornbread for breakfast every morning. I know that. Jared Goff has a great opportunity to prove a lot of people wrong. He's 26 years old. He's in a great situation, right? Where they trust him. They restructured his deal. They're not drafting their quarterback. They didn't draft one this year. They're not drafting one next year. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have faith in Jared Goff. The fans probably don't. He's got a great opportunity to just come in, do his job, learn the offense. And Anthony Lynn will be a great OC for him. Be perfect for him. Yep. So I think this is nonsense. And this is about the jersey he wears. I think Dak's 7 is partially because of the star on his helmet. And you automatically get a bump when you play for that team. And I think you automatically get pushed down a little bit when you wear this uniform. So I think it's my feeling about the Goff part is just nonsense. But he's got to go out and show it because McVay did him dirty, to be honest with you guys.
Don, Dak, number 7? Really?
So let me just reiterate this. I have no problem with Mahomes being number 1. I mean, he's probably the most exciting thing in professional football. Dak, number 7, no. He might be in the top 12 or 15.
Right.
I put him in that level, probably somewhere between 10 and 15, but not number 7. Goff's he's better than what they're giving credit for. So he's probably in the 20s somewhere. But the passing judgment. This kid's young, and Dak's young. I mean, all three of them are young. So to give them these kind of ratings right now, and I'm just assuming this is going into the 2021 season, but I pray that Dak is able to come back from that injury. It was not fun to look at. Ugh.
Right.
But let's say I think Dak is somewhere between 10 and 15.
Bill, finish it up.
Okay. So is Jared Goff bad? No. Is Dak 100%? No. What was the other part?
Mahomes is number one.
Oh, is Pat Mahomes essentially a demigod playing with the portals that surround him? Certainly much of the time, yes. We live, and we should appreciate, if I'm a person who grew up on defense, but if one is like most people and you love offense, you are living in a golden age of offense.
Yeah.
It's never been a better time to be a wide receiver. I can tell you that much. All those guys, who played like, Stanley Morgan, those guys have been kicking themselves, thinking about the crazy numbers they put up nowadays. Oh my gosh. I mean, what would Tim Brown do in today's football? Yikes.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, so
what would Jerry Rice do today?
Wow. That's hard to think about.
Yeah. So, let's talk about some of them, guys that played with the bump and run and the Jack, the Tatums and the Atkinsons. It's like, a whole different,
Yes, very different. Yeah. So I'm going to say that I'm not sure what metric or whatever they're using other than just, not trusting Jared Goff, I guess. But if you like numbers, if you go by the numbers, he's never been lower than maybe 17 or 18 by most of the metrics one can use, even in his worst years, and has been a top 10 quarterback in his best years. And the most important number is 26. 26, man. Like, do you know how many more years he has? Not just years to play, but years to keep it. A guy really starts to really figure the game out about 31. That's when the game, quote unquote, slows down, and you some guys are prodigies and they get there sooner, right? We just talked about Pat Mahomes, but getting beyond those guys who are sort of the exception, the rule is about 31. It's like, oh, okay, I've seen enough, I know enough. Pretty much anything you're going to throw at me, I've got an answer for. He's 5 years away from really hitting his peak.
Yep.
I don't know how you would not be excited about his opportunity there in Detroit. And yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, like what? Why? I mean, that's not really. There's nothing to be said really there. You can just move on. And yeah, I mean, I think Dak will be probably 80-something% most of the season, but that might be enough if they can protect it. If they can protect him.
Yeah. Bill Matty Ice. According to him, he still has a lot of football left. Truth or dare, Bill?
Well, the last I checked, they're not going to ask him to block or tackle. So as long as he stays away from those two activities and he does not get tackled too much, I don't see why he wouldn't. So yeah, I agree.
You're depending a whole lot on that offensive line for Atlanta. Go ahead, Demetrius.
Yes.
Go ahead, Demetrius.
Yeah, so I wonder, I'm going to go back to that whole narrative thing. Like, I think we all agree Matt Ryan should have a Super Bowl ring, right? Yes. Imagine what the perspective of Matt Ryan would be if his play caller had any sense. Because I don't put that loss on him. We dump everything on the quarterbacks, right? That's a coaching loss. That's a coaching loss in that Super Bowl. And Aaron Rodgers only has one ring. I don't know if people realize that. I'm not saying he's Aaron Rodgers. I'm saying the ring crafts the narrative. And if Matt Ryan had a Super Bowl ring right now, you would never have asked this question. He would be considered, and like he doesn't have to block or tackle anyone, and he could still throw the football pretty well. Matt Ryan's he's a really good quarterback. He's got a career that anybody would be proud of. If he had the ring, we would talk about him so differently. That I'm fascinated by that narrative. A ring that he legitimately should have. That's not me being hyperbolic. He should have a ring, and his whole narrative would be different if that play caller does the right thing. And it changed the whole perspective on him. So no, I think he's got plenty of football left. I think that for that question to be legitimate, and I guess it's legitimate. It's unfortunate that we can even ask that question, because if he had a ring, you wouldn't ask that question. We'd be talking about whether or not he deserves to go to the Hall of Fame. That probably would be the narrative on him, instead of is he on his decline or something like that. And on the field, I don't see it. I think Matt Ryan's still a very good quarterback.
So Don, Demetrius uses the Pete Carroll excuse here to excuse Matt Ryan's loss in the Super Bowl. So what's your thought on Matty Ice?
Well, the question is, is he still has a lot of football left? Yes, he does, given the right situation. He's not as young as that previously mentioned quarterbacks, but he's still, I guess, in the football world nowadays, where you got Breeze and Brady playing in their 40s. He's kind of middle aged maybe, but
he's in his prime. Like Bill said, he's in his prime, right?
So as long as he's healthy and he's in the right situation, and I say why not? I wouldn't mind seeing him, and he could be a good guy in Houston, I think, to take over Deshaun. But
yeah, that's a nice call.
Okay, says the man with the Pete Carroll excuse. Anyway, it was all on Pete. It had nothing to do with that guy stepping in front of that stupid ass pass.
Oh no, we're talking Falcons up 28-3 on the Patriots. You're talking Seahawks. That's a good one too. I'm talking about up 28-3. That's your play caller just chucking half of the plays on his sheet and winning the game, just through sheer play calling and managing the clock. So that's the Falcons who should have had a ring that day.
Well, I'm gonna toss you a little harder ball here, Demetrius.
Okay.
The Vikings were the fourth best offense in the NFL in 2020. Are they going to be contenders or pretenders in 2021?
Is that offense or defense? Fourth best defense?
Best offense.
Wow. So I don't know, because all that being said, they were 7-9. And quite frankly, the Lions outplayed them in one of those games. They should have been 6-10. But when I think about what did they do, and so when I was thinking about this, okay, they lost Eric Wilson, who's a good linebacker. They lost Kyle Rudolph, who I think is still a good tight end. They lost Riley Reif and the safety whose name escapes me. Harris. They lost Anthony Harris. Now in the draft, Christian Darrisaw will take care of your tackle issue. You won't miss Riley Reif that much, because Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech is a really good tackle. I don't understand their first third round pick is a quarterback out of Texas A&M, and I defer to Bill to tell you anything about Kellen Mond, because I honestly don't have a rap sheet on him. I do like Chaz Surratt, the linebacker, who can probably play any of the linebacker spots out of North Carolina. So I'm telling you, there's a 7-9 team. They got Patrick Peterson and Mackenzie Alexander. So I think they probably improved their secondary. Yeah, Mackenzie Alexander signed with them. So they probably improved their secondary. I don't see this market improvement that's going to make this 7-9 team scary. and I might have missed something. Maybe I forgot one because I'm going top of the head. I feel like there's a signing that I missed. Maybe a tackle or somebody. But I feel like they didn't do anything that makes me think they're way better than the 7-9 team that finished like third in the North last year. So I don't know. They're not scaring me. So I guess to the question, I'm still gonna have to say pretenders. Because I mean, as much as I love Michigan State, go green. Kirk Cousins still their quarterback, right? Okay, all right. So I mean, they are what they are. That's my answer. They are what they are. They're a team that'll go somewhere between probably 7-10 and 10-7, and might squeak into the wild card. I think that's the definition of a pretender. So go on the road and get smoked by the 49ers or the Seahawks or the Bucks. That's my guess.
Don, what's your thoughts about the Vikings this year?
Well, before I start on the Vikings, let me just say the quarterback, Kellen Mond, second team, the draft pick, went to Ronald Reagan High School. He was a freshman when my nephew was a senior, and he got to play behind got to see time behind like Trevor Knight and Ty Summers, who actually is a linebacker at Green Bay now.
Yeah.
So, and then Kellen Mond, after his junior year, he transferred to the IMG Academy in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of put a little connection. I've met his dad, and so he actually doesn't live too far from me. I think Minnesota is one of these teams that the breaks go either way. They could be in the playoffs, but you don't want to have to depend upon luck and breaks. I mean,
you really don't.
You don't. And but if they break, if they win eight or 9 games this year, I'll consider that a success for Minnesota. I think they're still probably a few years away. Although they do a lot of great things, especially on defense.
Yeah.
The offense, they just need to tighten up and maybe fine tune what they do.
Yeah, I wouldn't call them scary though.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I don't think Kirk. I like Kirk Cousins, but I don't think he's not the guy that's going to get him over that hump.
Yeah.
So, Bill, did the second round pick, did he cut your grass? Do you know something about?
Bill's going to tell us about his grandmother's coffee cup collection.
So it's funny. I have a friend, Donovan James, who is a guy who's worked for 24/7 Sports and Scout, I believe, as well in the past, and he, puts me on to certain players. So when Kellen Mond was at IMG, loaded, obviously. IMG's always loaded, but it's a loaded team. And he was like, this is the quarterback. He's going to be a 4-star. He might get a 5th star. And I was watching him thinking, this guy? Wow. This guy is a 4, maybe 5-star quarterback? And I saw him as a terrific athlete, and he seemed like a tough guy. And, but I didn't see a quarterback. I didn't think he could make it as a quarterback in college. Well, he did. Part of it is where he went. He went to a situation where, we've seen some of the success that the coaching staff there has had. Obviously, not all of them, but many of them were on the staff at Florida State, where at least previously Coach Fisher had a reasonable amount of success, though they're struggling now. But he's always been known as a quarterback guy. Back to his days as the offensive coordinator at LSU when he was helping to develop Jamarcus Russell. He's been known as a quarterback guy. And to see how much he improved year over year, still one of the most dramatic improvements I've seen in any college quarterback as long as I've been doing this. He was terrible at first. And he's now become a guy who I think has a legitimate shot to be either a high-end starter, high-end backup, or maybe even like a spot starter.
Awesome.
Okay. It's interesting to know. So after all that, are you scared of the Vikings, or are they just an also-ran?
I'm not scared of the Vikings because, as has been pointed out, he's not the quarterback yet. But the things that Kirk Cousins does best, he is really good at attacking the intermediate level. He's very accurate, particularly in that short to intermediate area. He's good at diagnosing defenses usually. But here's the things where he really struggles. He's never been good at handling pressure, and he hasn't gotten better with age. Some guys, they do the Brady Manning thing where they just fire the ball into the ground or they curl up in a ball or whatever it is. For whatever reason, he doesn't seem to know how to either escape or just, go fetal position. He seems to just kind of freeze up and not process what's happening quickly or accurately in terms of that. And at some point, they're going to get pressure on you. No matter how good your offensive line is, at some point you're going to get pressured. And if you aren't great at either the second reaction stuff like you get with Mahomes, or just, hey, this thing's dead and just protecting yourself, like I said, like Brady and Manning did later in their careers, he doesn't do either of those things. He's one of those guys that just kind of sometimes will just fling one up and hope. Sometimes he'll try to run around and get blasted. Like I don't like the way he reacts to pressure. And unless that's somehow changed, no, I'm not worried.
Okay. Don, which quarterback do you think this year has the most on the line? Tua or Hurts?
what a luxury was to have at Alabama have those two, 1 and 2 quarterback. Wow. More on the line. That's a good question. I'm going to say Tua just for the hell of it. How's that? I think Tua. He's shown flashes of what he can do. He just needs to get it all together. Jalen Hurts really hasn't had that chance yet, but I just say Tua just for the hell of it. I'm not even try to explain my reasoning. It's too late in the day to do that or at night. So,
Bill,
Yes.
your thoughts? Tua or Hurts?
Well, I mean, one of these guys is a first-round pick who was expected to be the franchise quarterback. The other guy was a second-round pick that some people graded as an athlete. I don't know if you guys still like to read code, but they're clearly the expectations are very different for Tua. And Tua is he 22 yet? I think he's 20. I mean, Tua is super young. I think he's 22. I don't think he turns 23 until later in the season. So I can't believe you'd pull a plug on a guy who's been been able to drink legally for like 13 months. That doesn't make much sense to me. He doesn't turn 23 until I think game 7 or 8 or something of the season. He's very young. Like, this wouldn't even been a question 20 years ago. Like, oh, we're going to pull the plug on our first rounder before he even starts a whole season worth of games? Like, what are we talking about? So Jalen Hurts is in a more precarious situation. So he was never the idea wasn't for him to be the guy anyway. So it's easier for him to lose it. Now I don't know how they would feel internally about this process, but I mean, when you say more to lose, they're losing the same thing, the starting position at an NFL team. There are only 32 of those, so there's no more, right? It's the same amount they'd be losing if they lost the starting job. But the guy who has less expectations is clearly Jalen Hurts. So they're going to probably give him fewer chances to fail if that's what you're driving at.
Okay. I'm going to stick with quarterbacks here, Bill. Can the Colts get to the playoffs with Carson Wentz?
Yes. Now, I'm going to go with the assumption that Carson Wentz, while he might not be the Carson Wentz that was, an injury away from winning the MVP or having a chance to win the MVP, I think he goes back to being the Carson Wentz who was when he came back off that injury the next season, who I think was still like a 27-7 guy in terms of touchdown interception ratio. I think he's done being a 16-15, which is what he was the last time. I don't think that's going to happen. And I think, frankly, it's a much better talent mix surrounding him at every level of that offense. It's a better offensive line. They have the running game. The running game. It's not even fair to compare the two running games, right? Quick, name a running back from the Eagles during his time there, right? They've had some dudes who were just literally sometimes guys that were signed off of other teams' practice squads started running back for them. I'm not even joking.
Kind of Lion practice squad guy, and he played the next week. They did that, and he played. It wasn't like he was just there, in case he was getting carries. So while in Jonathan Taylor you have a budding superstar running back. Yeah, they have an elite level offensive line, and he's back reunited with the coach that got the best out of him in his NFL career. So yes, this is a playoff team. I don't think he's going to stop them from being a playoff team.
Demetrius.
I like Bill's last line. He's not going to stop them from being playoff team. To your question, they're going to make the playoffs. It might be despite Carson Wentz, not because of Carson Wentz. But I think, all the things Bill hit on is like, you're playing in Indianapolis, Indiana. That is really, really important to remember. You're not in New York. You're not in Dallas. You're not in Chicago. You're not even in Philadelphia. And Bill used the word expectations probably 3 or 4 times because that's a big deal. You have a coach who has said out loud in front of cameras with microphones on that he has confidence in you. right? You have demonstrated a propensity to try and be a superhero. Nope, you got to stop all that. That's not how we're doing this in Indianapolis, Indiana. The press isn't going to hound you. Sports talk radio in Indy is not the same as it is in Philly. Just go do your job. You have a really good football team. Offensive line, the defense, coaching, you have weapons, you have running game. All you have to do is just go and just do your job and go home. It's as easy. You don't need to be a superhero because you play in Indianapolis, Indiana. Nobody's going to bother you. Just don't give them a reason. Go do your job and go home and don't mess this up because they're good enough to go. To Bill's last point, he's not going to stop them. Don't stop us from going to the playoffs is what this really is about. That's his job. Don't be the reason they don't make it.
So, Don, are these guys saying that it's easier to play in a stadium that doesn't have a police station in the bottom?
Yep.
Sounds like it. That's still a pretty cool fact, though, that they have a precinct. They have a judge there too, right? A judge.
Yes. They're raining them right there.
Yeah.
Doing arraignments all day.
One stop shopping. No problem. One stop and
that
go.
Is a great,
And the thing that I'm waiting to do is to scrape up my money and then be able to offer bail bond services right there on the spot. That's what I'm trying to get into. That's the session to be.
You know, what'd be cool is when you get there, you get a T-shirt. I serve time. Eagle jail. I was caged in the Eagle jail.
Nice.
So do the Colts unjail Carson Wentz, Don?
What's that?
Do they unjail Carson Wentz? Is this a legitimate team for Carson Wentz to take to the playoffs?
Carson Wentz is going to go down with some kind of freak injury about the third game. And they're going to have to decide between Eason and Ellinger. So I wouldn't mind seeing Ellinger in there.
They still might.
But, yeah. But, you know, I was a big fan of Carson Wentz. And I remember when he first entered the league, we had a guy that used to be on the show. I can't remember his name. And he said Carson Wentz was the real deal. He was going to be – and he was for a year. And then he just came back to earth. But
raindrops keep falling on my head.
So I think the Colts quarterback room is they better be ready. Whoever gets that QB2. So be ready.
Don, at number 8, the Broncos. I wish we had Mr. Clint in to talk about this, but Clint's watching his little girl play soccer, and he'll be back soon. But anyway, Don, when you talk about the Denver Broncos at number 8, they took Patrick Surtain. You think that was a good pick, considering what they got behind the center?
Well, any other team, you couldn't argue against taking Surtain. I wanted him to go to the Cowboys. Surtain's going to help. Whatever team he goes to, Surtain is going to help. Yep. But Denver really needs a damn quarterback. And, the fact they didn't take a quarterback, that's like a Jimmy Johnson move. Well, you need a safety. Well, I'm going to take a linebacker. Oh, okay. I mean, so I love Surtain. I thought he was probably the best quarterback available, but you got to address your needs. I don't think Denver went far enough.
Demetrius, I won't let Bill take all your points. Go ahead.
Oh, it's cool. I think Denver is fine at quarterback because Aaron Rodgers is going to be their quarterback. So this won't be an issue once they send that package to Green Bay. No, I think that there are teams that, or people, I guess John Elway might be who exactly I'm talking about. John Elway, and I think I'm stealing like Bill's thunder from like 2 months ago. There are guys that look, especially when they're ex-players, when they're drafting, they're looking for guys that remind them of them, a kind of player that reminds them of them. And so there's two facets of this for Elway. And quarterback, if he didn't see a quarterback that kind of reminded him of himself, he wasn't taking that kid. And then I think you just go best available player. And I think we all agree Surtain was probably the best corner. You might like J.C. Horn, you might like Farley. I think Surtain was the best corner on the board, and he will make them better. To Don's point, he will make them better. But you needed a quarterback. And I think somewhere in there, Elway was like, yeah, there's no me on the board. I don't see a John Elway on the board right now. And at what, 9, I think they selected?
8.
You were or 8? Yeah, you weren't taking Mac Jones at 8. I don't think Stephen William Belichick III had to get that in there. Would move up to 8 to take Mac Jones. So the guys that reminded John Elway of John Elway were gone by 8. So he could not draft her. That's what I think it is. And I am only half joking that they are putting together a package. And as soon as we clip June 1st, they're calling Green Bay, Wisconsin, whatever that area code is up there, 715 maybe, I don't know, whatever it is. They're calling that area code.
Cold,
yeah,
COLD.
Yeah. They're calling that area code starting June 2nd. Because, and I still suggest there's a 50-50 shot their quarterback's named Aaron Rodgers.
Bill, I know you had various draft boards available, and you had your board for Denver. Who did you have them picking, and were you surprised that they took Surtain instead of trading the pick?
No, I thought they'd look at the idea of trading down to pick up more players if somebody was desperate for a quarterback and wanted to trade up. But I did think they would take a position player. I didn't think it would be. I didn't think it'd be a quarterback. I thought they either would, if one of the top players slid down due to the quarterbacks being pushed up. If they had a shot like at somebody like Penei Sewell, or somehow made it to them, which didn't happen, but I didn't think it would. But if they would have taken it if he made it to them. I thought that it was a chance they might take a shot at that later. A corner I thought was a possibility. I also thought they might add a pass rusher, even though they've got some guys who can rush the passer, but you never have too many guys who can rush the passer. Right. But none of them were guys that felt like someone you had to have that early, I think. So I think that's what led to them taking the best player on their board. Yeah. And that was the best player on their board. And I think they also wanted to give Drew Lock one more shot. I think that there's a sentiment, and George Patton is the new-ish general manager now. Elway has officially moved away from being GM, at least by title. Right. So at least the way the workflow is supposed to work, Elway is still consulted about certain things, but he's more in a business development kind of role supposedly now. Yeah. With George Patton being the guy that's actually running the draft and running free agency. That's at least the company line coming out of One Bronco Place or whatever they call it there. But Mile High Drive or whatever it is they call the corporate address. But this is a team that's going to build around defense and running game, kids. I mean, in case you were wondering, 1, look at the way they drafted. 2, look at what their coaching staff has been saying about what they're planning to do. They don't want Drew Lock throwing the ball 52 times. I mean, that's not what their goal is. That's not what they're looking at the way some of the more balanced teams, like the first couple of years of Russell Wilson starting, right? I think they went back and said, well, one of the reasons Drew Lock has struggles, we're asking him to do too much. And I think they've decided they're going to have him try to do less this year. I think that's truly what they want to do. I think they want him throwing the ball 24, 27-ish times a game. And they think they want to be one of the teams that's about 48% run. I think that's what they want to do.
Okay. Well, guys, let's see. One more question before we get to our final thoughts. Demetrius, I know this is a very foolish question to ask, but what is the game that you're looking forward to in week 1?
Yeah, I'm not going to insult you guys and say Lions Niners. I know that's what you think I'm going to say. I'm not going to do that because this is a really good slate. I mean, I got to be honest with you. There's some games right? Browns, Chiefs, Dolphins, Pats, even your Steelers, Bills. There's some games on this slate. But actually, I like Seattle Indy. I'm gonna look at that game. It's a game that I think two playoff teams. I really am interested in how Frank Reich intends to resurrect. Resurrect might be harsh. No, probably not. What that's going to look like, because I do believe they have a really good team and he just doesn't mess it up. And I want to see with all the chatterbox with loudmouth Russell Wilson, was any of that legit? Is that whole thing settled down and is he fine? And where are they on the defensive side of the football? I wonder if they've taken a step back. So I'm interested in that game. I'm definitely watching you guys in Buffalo because I have the package. I'm watching a lot that day. I do think Browns Chiefs is gonna be a good game, and I skipped the Thursday night one, which hopefully Dallas keeps that. I'll let Don have that game. I won't even make that. So I think that for me, Seattle Indy is gonna be a good game. I think I'm interested in Dolphins Pats to see what William Stevens got going on. So I think there's a lot to choose from. Obviously, I'm going to watch every minute of Lions Niners. That's what we do. That's what my podcast is all about. So I have to obligatory. I'm obligated to watch that one. But I think there's a great choice of games, and I think actually Steelers Bills might be the game of the week. Who knows?
So are you a Pepto-Bismol man or an Alka-Seltzer? No,
no, it's actually a different drug. We'll go ahead and promote the drug. It's called omeprazole. That's actually what it's called. The thing I take around middle of the third quarter, so that I am fine on Sundays. That's what it's called. So, yeah, I like that pink Pepto stuff. But you're dead on. No, we need something.
Don, what's your thoughts on the game of the week?
Well, you would think I would say Cowboys Tampa, right?
I thought you would, yeah.
And that is a great game. I mean, I'm interested to see how Dak responds, but I'm real intrigued more by Chiefs Browns because you got Pat Mahomes, who's this, all shuts kind of country boy, down to earth, from East Texas, and then you have Baker Mayfield, the brash, shit-talking guy from Austin. They were rivals at Texas Tech and Oklahoma. Yeah. Mahomes never beat Baker Mayfield, Oklahoma, but I don't think Baker's ever beat Mahomes in the NFL. But you got two Texas quarterbacks going head-to-head, always like that. So that's going to be my pick because I think that the Chiefs will make a return to the Super Bowl, and I think they'll probably meet the Browns, maybe, possibly.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it'll be the Chiefs, Browns, and the Ravens in there. So I'm gonna watch that game more intently than the other one. I'll be watching Cowboys Tampa, but to me
Thursday. You can watch both of those.
Yeah, I can watch both of them. That's right. But I'm gonna go with the Chiefs and Browns.
Bill, even though Don mentioned the Ravens and the Browns, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, well, I guess since everyone else is going away from the homer pick, I'll go with the homer pick, at least in part because this is a really important measuring stick game, particularly for the Steelers, actually. Ironically, the team with less to prove is the Bills. I think people know that that's a team that, if they lose this game, everyone figures they're going to be a good team, and they're going to be a team that not only will probably make the playoffs, but probably should still win their division. Though, obviously anything can happen. I mean, things change a lot from one year to the next. I'm not just concerned with if the Steelers win the game or lose the game. I'm really concerned with how they look doing it. If they lose the game and it's a nail biter and it's a play here, a play there, I'll still be okay with it. If they get just pushed around and blown out, I will be super worried about how the rest of the season is likely to go. So if they're able, win or lose, if they're able to look like they belong playing against the Bills, I will feel pretty good. And obviously, you know, a win would be great. So that's the game. I mean, I'll be watching, you know, these games in general, period, we're all talking about. But that game will have my interest so strongly because it's such an important measuring stick for the Steelers. And even though it's early and lots of things will happen between now and week 18, I guess now it is. Have to get used to saying that. But yeah, that's what I'm going with. I'm definitely going with that right there.
I think our first televised game out here on the West Coast will either be Denver or the Cowboys. So we'll see. But my interest, of course, is in the Steelers. I'll be watching that game. I'll also be kind of interested in who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos. Is Demetrius and Clint going to be right? Or is we're going to have Drew Lock? We'll see.
Yep.
Don, your final thoughts for the evening, man. Always good to get you in, and I know it's not as late as it is for Bill or Demetrius, but I know for us old guys we need that extra hour. So
that's true.
So I'll give you your final thoughts first.
Okay, final thoughts. So I just read this today on a UT fan site. Texas has a recruit just committed. He's still in high school. His name is Jaden Blue. He's considered probably either the number one running back in the country or number two, depending on which service if you follow recruiting. Had over 2,000 yards last year for Klein, which is outside of Houston. He announces today he's going to sit out his senior year to prepare for college football. He released a statement saying that he made this decision very carefully, consulted his parents, but he wanted to take care of his body to prepare for the NFL eventually. Now, so college football has taken a weird-ass turn. The transfer portal has created free agency pretty much. Yeah. The 247 Sports Network released the 100 top transfer portal players. I'm like, what the hell's going on to my game?
Yeah.
Guys transferring in and out. I think the conferences need to say, if you transfer, you can't transfer within our conference. I think that would help. But these guys, and now, we saw it in college football where people are sitting out bowl games. It's a business decision, which, if you're not playing for the national championship, I kind of get it. But you're in high school. So what's going to happen, he's going to be the first one that did it. I think you're going to see more high school seniors say, I'm going to sit out.
Wow.
You can do his name is Jaden Blue, JAYDONBLUE, like the color.
Yeah. Dan Campbell announced it on his website. He's like the big time high school football maven, and that's when I first saw it. It came across my timeline on Twitter about 3 hours ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, so
that's next
welcome to 2021. These youngsters. That's my final thought. I don't like it. It's even though he is coming to Texas. How committed is he going to be? I mean, he's
already talking about the NFL. He's saving his body, not for Texas. He's saving his body for the NFL. That's wow.
So, and I'm afraid it's going to have a trickle-down effect because I think more athletes will be doing that. The number one quarterback is a guy named Quinn Ewers from South Lake Carroll. Let's say he's not going to sit out. I doubt Arch Manning will next year, but who knows? I mean, it happens. So that's my final.
Don, is one and done coming to high school football?
We're all laughing. We're laughing because it sounds ridiculous, but who knows? I mean,
this is ridiculous. What you just laid out, I would have never imagined. That's crazy.
Well, thanks a lot, Don. We'll talk to you next week, my man. You have a great night. Let's see. Demetrius, now that you've got this information from Don, and of course Bill is already on it, I'll be looking at it after the show's over. But your final thoughts for the evening?
Mine is a combination of I like to recognize contribution. I always say the same thing, and I just think there's a lot of people in sports that don't get recognized. This one's tough because he might be recognized, but this is like partly me being old, remembering 38 years ago today when I was 14, sitting in the room with my dad and brother watching a boxing match. And because of the dude over my shoulder, it's always tough for me to give anybody credit. And I celebrated Joe Louis last week, but hopefully you boxing guys will agree. The best jab, pure jab in the history of this sport. Eastern Assassin, right? So 38 years ago today, Larry Holmes, Tim Witherspoon, one of the best fights you could ever see, especially with heavyweights. Yep. But then it just got me to thinking about, wait a minute. I remember he won his first 48 fights, and we can do an entire sports crib on the 49th fight. Not that I dislike Michael Spinks. I just think Larry Holmes won the fight. And I think there was a conspiracy to not let him get the record. I somehow, and you guys can correct me, believe that Larry Holmes is somehow underrated. In large part because of the guy over my shoulder, but Larry Holmes was so good. And I think that, if I just gave you the list of guys he beat Ken Norton, he beat Ernie Shavers, he beat Jerry Cooney, he beat Tim Witherspoon, he beat some great fighters. And it was the guy after the guy thing. He followed this guy and then dominated the sport for, I don't know, the better part of a decade, maybe more, like was kind of untouchable. And I just, for some reason, I was thinking about it because it popped up earlier, something 38 years ago. And I remember that fight, watching it with my brother. And then I just went on this whole thing of, I feel like Larry Holmes deserves more credit somehow. I could be right. I feel like Larry Holmes deserves to be celebrated more. So I had a whole nother thing I was going to do. And I was like, screw it. I'm doing Larry Holmes tonight because I still think he has the best jab ever, irrespective of weight class. His jab was the dominant punch in every fight he was in. And there's not a lot of guys who can say that. He won fights through just wearing you out with this rifle of a jab. Yep. And so if you're a boxing guy like I am, I think we need to put more respect on Larry. Somehow, I think we need to put more respect on Larry Holmes' name. And so that's my final thought, that Larry Holmes deserves a little bit more.
Interesting thought, but who are you going to rate him ahead of, Joe Louis or Muhammad Ali?
Well, neither of those guys. I mean, you can tell Ali's in a different space in my life. I got like three heroes. My dad is one. He's another, So it is that's a short list. And Joe Louis has a connection to Detroit. So it's gonna be tough. So and being third behind Ali and Joe Louis is not shameful.
And you're giving him the best jab in boxing, so what more would you have us do?
I said at the beginning, I don't even know if I'm right by using the word underrated. I don't even know. I just all day I was thinking, I think I'm gonna talk about Larry Holmes tonight. I couldn't shake it. I was like, I think I'm gonna talk about Larry Holmes. So I just want to give him a little more props.
And I think we might have to put George Foreman in there somewhere.
Of course, so. and Joe Frazier, the left hook in the world, right?
So you might be asking for a lot there to me.
I know. Something to think about.
Yeah, just where do we put him? Bill, your final thoughts for the evening, my man.
Well, sort of like my friend Demetrius, I'm going to go with a this day in sports history. And I'll be honest, I don't really follow Formula One anymore, but I used to. I was a big Formula One fan as a kid. And I used to be able to tell you about, how Andretti or AJ Foyt or, Dan. Oh my God, I'm forgetting even the name. No, Dan, Formula One driver. He drove other things as well, but mostly Formula One, American. But even like some of the older guys, like Jim Clark. I used to, have a good sense of who was good and why and who was running what kind of engine and all that kind of stuff. I used to know that stuff. And I guess I've just lost contact with Formula One for whatever reason, but I was a big fan as a kid. And one of my favorite drivers actually passed away this day How many years ago was that? 2 years ago, I guess. Yeah, 2 years ago. Niki Lauda, the very gentlemanly Austrian driver who was the Formula One champion in 75, 77, and 84. And just almost a perfect driver. I mean, and how do we put this? We were just talking about boxers, right? And how there's some boxers who are just these sort of raw, sort of rampaging berserkers, and they may not have the greatest technique, but they have so much raw power and they can take so much punishment, they still manage to be great. And then there's like guys who are like at the other end of the spectrum, like Pernell Whitaker or Floyd, the pretty boy Floyd version of Floyd, where you can go a whole fight and feel like you never made hard contact, right?
Exactly.
And it just you go home at night feeling like, well, what did I do? What did I even accomplish, right? And then you have people who have a little bit. We just talked about Nikola Jokic, right? Where he seems to have some of everything. He seems like he can do everything, a little bit of anything. And that's what Lauda was like as a Formula One driver. He wasn't as wild as some guys. He didn't take all the risks all the time that some guys took. The late Jim Clark, as I mentioned, was a guy that, was always going for it. Always, It's always thought he could make it. Always thought he could, find an angle that would allow him to slingshot pass or do things that
even not first, you're last.
Right. Yes. One of those guys. Exactly. And then there's other guys who were, just great at organizing a race, right? Just sort of had a plan for how they were going to race, but didn't always have the greatest feel for things, but had a plan and stuck to it. Niki Lauda had everything going for him as a driver, in my opinion, at least. He's on my Mount Rushmore of Formula One drivers. I'll put it that way. Along with guys like Andretti, obviously. But I felt like he had a natural talent for reading how the race was going. His aggression was always measured. I think he wanted everybody to make it home, from every race, which I actually admired that more than some of the guys who seemed to be a little less cautious sometimes. And he was a gentleman. Like, he wasn't a guy that got tired of being asked the same question. He wasn't a guy that, felt a need to sort of big time people or things like that. He was a true gentleman, one of the best to ever do it. And you said, sort of like with Holmes, it's strangely underrated. I don't think people give Niki Lauda his credit for how great a Formula One driver he was. I don't know if it was because he wasn't like a super huge personality, or because he didn't drive like his hair was on fire, or whatever reason, or anything else was on fire. But you don't want that. Fire's bad. But he just always, people would talk about him like, yeah, Niki Lauda, he's really good. But I think he's one of the greatest of all time. So my thoughts tonight go to the late, great Niki Lauda.
Hey, Bill, I want to throw something on you.
Yep.
I did not know you were a Formula One guy.
When I was younger, yeah. I don't follow it anymore. I don't know why. It was like one day, I don't know. It's weird how I was really into it from ages like 6 to like 12, 13, and then something happened. I don't know. But yeah, go ahead.
So AJ Foyt, he's a Texan. He's
of course.
He was actually a good friend of my godfather.
Wow.
And so I have actually been hunting on AJ Foyt's ranch out around Del Rio, Texas.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yep. I've killed 2 or 3 deer on his ranch.
Nice.
So
Oh.
it's funny because back in the 70s, the state legislature met and they were going to try to pass a law. Of course, Texans were crazy. That they're going to pass a law that would allow AJ Foyt to go as fast as he wanted to on Texas highways.
That is the most Texas thing I've ever heard in my life.
Texas thing.
Wow.
The law, the bill didn't get past committee, but someone actually filed it. So
Through committee, that's great.
That is amazing to me. Like I can't. There's no I can't come up with another thing that correlates with it. As much as like even Californians love driving fast, there's no way they would say Jeff Gordon can drive as fast as you.
2 hour, 15-minute podcast. Don drops the best nugget at the end. Texas going Texas. That's great.
That's awesome and crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy awesome.
In Texas. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Texas. Go Texas.
Well, you know, in Sweden and Norway and those Scandinavian countries, if you do something Texas, that means crazy.
There you go.
Hey, you know what? You know what, Don? This is the same thing in Michigan. That's called going Texas. It's the same thing. we use that word for crazy in Michigan too. So.
Oh man, hey, never more fun than on the Sports Crib, guys. Bill, no, Demetrius, I'm sure you'll be able to tell us how many minutes we went on today. I see.
I love it. Yeah.
I guess so. I guess somebody here needs to keep track of the damn time. So hey, might as well
I would be disappointed if we're ever under 2 hours. I will be I'll just make up stuff to say to get us over 2 hours. Like I said, you're on the West Coast. This is about me and Bill. And as long as Bill doesn't give me a signal, we're going. We're going until we go.
Well, usually we can see Don's signal. He'll give us the nod, but that's it. But hey, guys, as always, a lot of fun. Look forward to talking with you next Thursday. And hey, make sure you stay safe.
Absolutely. Good job, guys. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Hey, Demetrius, I might be sending you an invite to the political show, too.
All right. Feel free. I'd love it.